and welcome to another lecture of the course Aquaculture. Today we are going to talk about types of fish ponds. We all know that what ponds are, but in fact, when we have to define ponds, we can say that okay, they are small, shallow, quiet, standing water or still water, or you can say providing lentic environment or water which is not flowing with slight wave action, very low wave action is there because of the winds and all. So it may be natural if there is water in some confinement, then it may be called as pond. That may be natural, or ponds may be constructed also for various purposes, maybe as reservoir of water for some other purpose, but for fish culture also. Nowadays, ponds are constructed mainly for fish culture. Now, what area should be taken for constructing the pond? It all depends on your objective, the requirement of the region. I mean, the topography of the land, what kind of land you are having, what kind of resources you are having, what kind of flexibility to utilize those resources you are having. In all, if all the factors you can control, then you can have whatever area you want depending on your objective. So usually we go for not less than 300 or 400 square meters, and then we can go for larger ponds also if we are going to do fish culture on large scale. Ideal length and breadth of pond is about 3:1. In fact, again I should say that it all depends on how flexibility you have in utilizing the land resources. But if you have to go for Indian major carp culture or carp culture, then they require large area to swim, and that is provided in a best fashion in case of rectangular ponds. So if you have more of length than the breadth, then rectangular pond you can construct, and that gives the carps more area to move, and so more opportunities to grow. So they grow well in such kind of ponds. And also, if you are going for Indian major carp culture with supplementary feeding, that means semi-intensive aquaculture. That means you also depend on natural food productivity. So if natural food productivity has to be there, then it needs sunlight, sufficient sunlight for primary productivity, for phytoplankton productivity. So if the pond is in the direction of east and west, and it is rectangular, then of course it will receive more of sunlight than otherwise. Depth, it again depends on your what kind of fishes you are having, in which environment you are doing pond culture. For example, if the winter temperatures go below 20 degree or 15 degree centigrade, then it is better to have 2-meter pond depth. That will give them the fishes some area to hide during the low winter conditions. This is just, I have taken one picture from the internet just to show how the ponds may look like. There are many type of fish ponds that you can get to see in various books or internet. I've given reference for this picture also. And here, what one kind of advice that I would like to give here, that the embankment or dike should be very strong, as here you can see the grasses which have made the embankment very strong. But the trees, do not plant trees very early when the dikes are new, when the embankments are new. When the soil gets compacted, after a certain time, when there are grasses and the soil is compact and dike is very strong, then you go for plantation. And usually we avoid near to the water area, we plant trees on the outer side of the dike or embankment. Here also the trees seems that they have been planted very recently when the picture was taken. This has been taken from one FAO manual. A reference has already been given. You can see this. If you are going to prepare pond, then you should keep certain things in your mind, that you need to have proper inlet and outlet. You need to have slope at the bottom of the pond, and there should be, proper dike width and the slope required. So all these things you will have to take care of. Then what are the criteria for selecting the site to construct a pond? We need to look after the topography conditions. Normally, flood-prone areas are avoided. Poor rainfall areas are avoided. You can understand why I am saying you need water. So poor rainfall areas are to be avoided. You will have to spend more money in getting water then. And flood-prone, because that may take fish out of your pond during the flood times. Areas such as industrial zones, fields with underground oil pipelines, irregular land areas, these are all, very common conditions which anybody with a common sense can understand that these areas should be avoided in order to prepare pond for commercial fish culture. Then soil, loamy, clay loamy and silt clay soil types are most suitable for pond construction. In fact, the focus is to avoid such kind of soil which which does not provide good water holding capacity, where seepage may be noticed, where the conditions for plankton growth or natural food growth is not better. So that kind of soil should be avoided, and water having good holding capacity and providing nutrients for natural productivity, all such kind of soils can be used. Then soil we have discussed. Then water. It depends on which species you are going to culture, but here we are focusing more on Indian major carp. So temperature 26 to 35, upper limit has been given, but usually it should be tried to 26 to 28 degree or like that. But that can be up to even 35 degrees. Sometimes it comes to lower side also, maybe 22 or 23 degree or lower. Then pH slightly towards alkaline side is considered better. Then construction of pond, what are the different points that we should keep into mind? It's not as simple as that you ask some labor to engage for pond construction and they will go and dig some area and it is a pond. No, you will have to keep certain things in mind. It's not very complicated, very simple, but if you have planned it in a better way. For example, first prepare the site and mark the site. What you have to do, just identify which area you are going to construct upon, and then that area should be cleared of any undesired vegetation or any undesired material which is present in that area, and then do proper marking of the area where you need to construct the pond. Marking in the sense that you will have to mark the outer points of the dike, where the outer slope of the dike will be. Then you need to mark the inner side of the dike inside the pond, where the slope of the dike, the slope on the inner side of the pond is more steep, less steep than outer side. So you will have to identify and mark that point also. Then you will have to mark the slope required towards one side of the pond. So when you do all these markings, and you can use wooden pegs or something to identify those marks, and then you can use strings or or whatever is available at your place in order to have the proper identification of the regions. Then dig the pond in layers. It is always advised to dig the ponds in layer, and especially you have to take care of the topsoil. Uh, Topsoil, that is the first 20 centimeters or sometimes up to 30 centimeters. 20 centimeters or 30 centimeter soil, first that soil has to be uh, taken out and keep it aside. Then build the banks, continue digging and build the banks, put maybe 1 and 1.5 feet or 2 feet of soil on the banks and get it compacted. Then again put another layer, and likewise whatever height you have to achieve, you can do that. Compaction is very important in case of the earth compaction. The soil compaction for the dikes is very necessary in order to make them strong enough to hold the water. Now, when dikes are completed, then add topsoil on the top of the banks as well as outside slope of the topsoil, because the topsoil which you have kept aside, that is the fertile one, and that has the capability to grow vegetation, and those vegetation, grasses or other some small vegetation, that they will provide strength to the side of the outside of the dike as well as top portion of the dike. So that is one of the important thing. Then we should provide slope at the pond bottom and make proper drainage provisions. Sometimes we from the center of the pond we make a drain towards one side of the pond, so that when it is needed, we can have all the water drained out of the pond. Sometimes it is needed. Add an inlet and outlet in the community ponds, which you will see in many of the villages and small towns. You will not get to see the inlet and outlet provisions, but they are very important, since they will decide that what quantity of water in what form will be taken in and how that will be taken out. And when the water quality becomes deteriorated, then you have to take out. But if you do not have provisions, then it becomes a big problem. Then cover the dike with soil and plant grass that I have explained you, but avoid deep rooted plants, especially on the inner side of the dike. If you are having wide enough dike, then on the outer edge you can have trees planted, but not on the inner side of the pond. Then it again depends on which place you are and how resourceful you are. You can fence the pond or secure your pond, and that may secure from wild animals or predators or poachers to harm the fish from your pond. Types of ponds, there are, depending on the utility, there are different type of ponds. For example, nursing pond, rearing pond, stocking pond, broodstock pond. Apart from these four, you may have few other ponds also. For example, in some farms you will see that what they do, they when one crop is harvested, they just don't wait for the right people to come and take the harvest to the market. They just don't wait for that. They will simply harvest the fish and stock it into another pond, which they call as marketing pond. So what they do, they stock there, and then when the people come to buy that fish, then they harvest from that marketing pond. So sometimes that is not very usual practice, but that is done in some of the farms. And one more pond is also seen in the farms, and that is quite useful. One pond where, if you are getting canal water or water from some other source, you can condition the water, you can check the quality, you can have the water standing in that pond for some time. That depends on the quality of water, the type of soil or other things that you are having at your place. Then you can use that water in your pond. Or from uh, if you're getting certain, maybe some wild fishes may come through the canal, some wild organisms or pathogens. So for that, conditioning is very good. Or sometimes you get fish seed from outside of your area, and the fish may carry something harmful to your pond which is not present in your pond, some pathogen or something. So again, that pond may act as quarantine pond, where you can keep that fish. You have fish seed, or whichever stage of fish you have carried, fish seed or broodstock or whatever. You can keep that fish into that pond and quarantine it for a few days. When everything is fine, then go and stock that fish for your purpose. So that is sometimes said as quarantine pond. Some people may also call that as conditioning pond if they are using only for conditioning. Uh, a layout of fish farm has been shown here. Again, I should say this is not, binding to everyone. That depends on the type of conditions, the type of land you are having. But the basics you should follow. That you have to provide proper provisions for inlet, outlet, slope, dike, and other things, so that your fish farming practice becomes successful. Now, one by one, we can discuss the ponds, type of ponds. Nursery ponds. These are mainly for nursing purpose, so they are not very large. They are, when we introduce fish fry into newly hatched ones, which where yolk sac has been resorbed, uh, then these fishes need some kind of outside food, and they need a little larger area to move on. Then we stock them in nursery ponds. They are not necessarily larger ponds, larger than where they were earlier in the hatchery, but nursery ponds may be smaller or may be larger depending on the scale of fish culture or scale of seed production you are having. So here you can say the size is only 0.02 to 0.05 hectare. So you can imagine the area. So it's not that larger in the sense of stocking or rearing, but the size you can see here, 0.02 to 0.05 hectare. Depth is also not kept more, only 1 to 1.5 meter. That again depends on the stocking density and the type of fish, and the weather conditions. The exit and entrance of water should be under control. That is very necessary. Spawn is stocked in nursery ponds and reared for a maximum of 30 days. So you have to keep these newly hatched fry for about a month. Due to sudden changes in the quality of water from hatching hapa to nursery ponds, heavy mortality. It's not necessary that every time you are using hatching hapa. I don't know whether you are having a concept of what hapa are and how they look like. Hapa, in fact, that was traditional method of fish breeding, where what we have been using these muslin cloth enclosures for as hapa, which we called as hapa. That was nothing but kind of muslin cloth enclosure, where the upper region and the lower region were having strings, and these strings were fixed on bamboo poles on both the sides in the pond, inside the pond. And so this was fixed in such a way that the hapa bottom was about 1 to 1.5 feet, or depending on the water depth, or sometimes 2 feet away or above the pond bottom. Then in this hapa was also having an openable upper part, which may be having zipper or buttons or whatever. So you can open it, introduce your broodstock, give them injection. They will breed in hapa, then collect the eggs, and then put the eggs, fertilized eggs, when they are collected after water hardening, they are shifted to hatching hapa. Hatching hapa, in addition to having this, I can show the same one to you. In hatching hapa also, the outer portion is of muslin cloth only, but this muslin cloth on its inner side is having a provision to accommodate another hapa, inner hapa. This we call as inner hapa, and this inner hapa is made up of the mosquito net, you can say, that kind of material. So in this inner hapa, we put the fertilized eggs, and these fertilized eggs, when they hatch out, the hatchlings go into the area between inner hapa and outer hapa. The hatchlings move out into this space, and the debris remains, which can be taken out. So these hatchlings are having yolk sac, and once their yolk sac is absorbed, these are shifted to the nursery pond for their further care, for further growth and nursing. But every time we do not have, nowadays especially, we are not using traditional hatching hapa and breeding hapa. We are using circular hatchery in most of the places, where one large breeding tank is there, and the outlet of that breeding tank is somehow connected to, in such a way that very gently the eggs, fertilized eggs, will move to the nursing hatching tank, and from that hatching tank, once the hatchlings are there, and once their yolk sac starts absorbing, then these newly hatched fry, they are shifted automatically to the nursery. So many of the automations has been done so as to minimize the damage through handling to these tender fish stages. Now, nursery pond, how it is prepared. Here, through the nursery pond, I will try to show you that how everything goes. Then to the other ponds, we may not discuss that in this detail, what we are discussing now. How we prepare? All predatory and weed fishes should be removed from the pond. Many of these things I have already discussed with you in my lecture on semi-intensive farming. So there I discussed very briefly. Here we can have a little more information. All predatory and weed fishes should be removed from the pond. Then chemical fertilizers, or along with cow dung, that can be applied. And then that doses of the chemical fertilizer and cow dung that you can calculate according to the soil conditions and the water quality. Within 10 to 20 days, you will get to see the natural productivity in terms of phytoplankton and zooplankton. Then you can go for restocking the nursery pond. Usually 60 to 70,000 hatchlings per 200 square meters if the hatchlings are 4 to 5 days old. That depends on the size, what should be the stocking density. So you can stock the nursery pond, and then here it is written the hatchlings are usually brought to the nursery pond in plastic bags. But if the farm is not having its own hatchery, suppose you are having only pond, you are not having hatchery, you are buying some very early stage of the fish from hatchery, and the nursing part you have to carry out at your farm, then what you can do, these fry, the fish fry, newly hatched fry, they are sold in plastic bags. These plastic bags, what happens, they look like, I can show you here. Suppose this kind of plastic bag is there, and they are after keeping the fish and the pond, they are tied like this. Here the lower, about 40 to 50% area is occupied by water, where fishes are kept, and rest of the upper portion is filled with oxygen. In this form, the fishes are supplied, the newly hatched fry are supplied to the ponds. And if you are carrying very young ones, then you can transfer them into the um, nursing pond, or if you are carrying moderate size, then you can directly um, stock them into the rearing or stocking pond. Usually, many of the farmers in our villages, they do not have these much ponds. They have only one pond, and they call it as rearing or stocking pond. So when you are carrying this fish seed, what you do, you simply put these bags into your pond and let it be like that for quite some time, on both the sides, on inside the bag as well as outside into the pond. That becomes almost same. And then what we do, we untie the bag, and then let the pond water come into the bag, little pond water, then more, and then very gently we simply leave the bag like that opened, and fishes try to move on their own, and then we empty the bag. So in this way, there is less damage, there is less shock. Suppose you are carrying from a very far place, maybe 4 5 hours journey, or 6 hours journey, and all of a sudden you got it from your vehicle and just poured it into your pond, then many of the fishes may die. So you should follow this procedure in order to get better survival. Survival of carp fry, when stocking density will be less, survival will be more. So that is the basic concept, basic idea that we should follow. We should uh, proceed according to these guidelines, that not too much to be stocked into your nursery pond. Then supplementary feeding is provided, but natural food is also very important. So that is why in the previous slides I showed you about preparation of nursery pond. So we prepare the pond for enhancing the natural productivity, for getting more phytoplankton and zooplankton, on which these fish fry feeds love to feed, in fact. And to maintain that, we need to provide organic manures or water quality checks. We need to do on a continuous basis, regularly. But only natural food may not be enough for them to survive and grow. So you will have to take care by providing some of the food from outside. Here it is written that the mixture of finely powdered uh, oil cake, whatever oil cake is available in your region, they are a good source of protein. Rice or wheat bran, whatever is available again in your region, bran of rice or wheat. And then if you get fish meal, then it is very good for their growth rate. And this is the ratio where it is recommended. But you can have, depending on the conditions. The main idea is you will have to provide them good protein diet. Approximately 40% protein, if you are providing them, it's very good for their growth rate. Check the these everything I have already explained to you, that if we take care of these conditions, natural food productivity and providing food from outside, then the fishes show very good growth rate. Then it comes rearing pond. That how rearing ponds, what are rearing ponds? Larger ponds, used larger ponds compared to nursery ponds. Okay, nursery ponds were not larger as rearing ponds, as you can see from the size, 0.05 to 0.1 hectare, with water depth of 1.5 to 2 meters. Again, I have already explained that how the depth range should be decided, how the area should be decided. Here we culture fry into fingerlings. The rearing duration may be of 2 to 3 months. The stocking is done at 0.25 to 0.3 million per hectare, because we are stocking fry, with a survival rate of 60 to 80% under proper pond conditions. So if you are able to manage the pond well, then this survival rate can also be increased. Manage in terms of water quality, in terms of providing natural as well as a balance of natural and food from outside, artificial feed, then the survival rate can be increased. Fingerlings, when fingerlings attain a length of about 20 centimeter, then we can transfer them into a stocking pond. It is used to, a stocking pond is used to grow fish to marketable size. From, in the previous slide, you have seen that about 20 centimeter fish, when it is stocked into the stocking pond, then from 20 centimeter to until it reaches to marketable size. The size of the pond depends upon the species, of course, that what kind of species you are stocking. Pond area ranges from 1 to 2 hectares and above, but usually 1 hectare area is considered good, because you should have only that area of pond as one unit of pond which can be managed easily. If the pond area is very large, I told you again, it all depends on your resources, your capabilities, the kind of things that you are having at your hand, that what area you should select. Here, sometimes water depth may be increased, but we should avoid to have much deeper waters if harsh winter conditions are not there. So it becomes always good for managing moderate water depth ponds. So if it is possible, then go for 2 meters or so, but avoid deeper than 2 meters. Sometimes it may be better depending on the species and the conditions. But if you are having the provisions of harvesting and other things with you, then you can manage even 2.5 to 3 meters depth of water. Usually, a pond having an average depth of 1.5 to 2.5 should be stocked at the rate of 5,000 fingerlings. Most of the stocking ponds you will get around 2-meter depth. So that is quite good, sometimes 2.5. It all depends on in which area and what kind of a species. The culture duration may vary from 8 to 12 months, again depending on the species, which species reaches the marketable size in what duration. Organic manuring with cow dung can be done. This dose of organic manure also, that depends on the soil quality, the type of fish, and the purpose, whether you are going for extensive or semi-intensive, or what kind of a stocking density you are using. The chemical fertilizers may also be used in order to enhance the natural productivity. Broodstock pond, many of farms do not have this broodstock pond, but this is very necessary, because broodstock, the brooders, if we are going to use, then brooders, as different life stages of the fish, have different dietary or nutritional requirements. The nutrient requirement in terms of percent body weight, or what percent of protein, what percent of fat, what percent of minerals and vitamins, and what quality of these nutrients, what quality of protein, what quality of vitamins and minerals or fat is needed in different stages of life. That is very important to understand. And broodstock also have very specialized requirement. That is why they should be managed separately, so that you can fulfill the requirement of the broodstock, especially in the terms of feeding and other management conditions also. So they should be kept separately and provided tailor-made feed in order to have very good quality, healthy brooders, so that the young ones produced by them are also healthy and show good growth rate. So a common stocking rate is 1,000 kilogram of brood fish per hectare, not too much to be stocked, and we get so that we can get good gonadal growth and gonadal maturation. And again, that depends on the feeding, a lot on feeding. To maintain the stocked fish in good condition, the following requirement must be met. Water depth is, as advised previously, 1 to 2.5 meters, that I have already explained, and should be kept constant throughout the year. Fresh water of good quality should be readily available in order to have, if water quality is good, if dissolved oxygen content is good, then the fishes perform much better than otherwise. Then supplementary feeding, of course, that will be given, that I have just explained regarding broodstock. And again, whatever pond, whatever picture has been shown, again, this is not something which you have to stick to. That you can have your own designs based on the concepts that you have to follow, the scientific practice that you have to follow. So that's all in the types of pond. Thank you so much.